Hi guys, so today we're going to start with another Atlanta Fairchild Medicine Heart Oracle. I don't know, I just love this deck, and this card speaks to me a lot. There's a personal reason, and it just kind of floored me when I pulled it. But anyway, number 39 is Crested Crane, marks the center. And the inscription, which is like the little kind of explanation she gives before the pages that kind of goes into the detail of the meaning. It says, the center of the mandala is the place where all is possible. The center is the call to an evolutionary shift with steadiness and grace. A spiritual shift generates excitement, confusion, chaos, and creative freedom. This is a wild card moment on the soul path where many new potentials and opportunities arise as if out of nowhere. It is the realm of magic, synchronicity, and the unexpected. Things may seem to be falling apart, but in a more meaningful and true way. They are really falling into place. And she goes in to talk about how unique these cranes are, and how they have like this unique way of sleeping, nesting, and resting in trees, which they're a large bird, so it doesn't seem like that's where they would be, but it keeps them from predators. And so it teaches about how to seek spiritual shelter as a form of protection, knowing how and where to rest, and knowing when you need to rest, that type of thing. And then it also talks about how their fluidity and their ability to adapt and evolve has really kind of been a really big thing. They're kind of sacred in Uganda, so they're known as the national bird and depicted on its flag. And she talks about how it kind of teaches about the evolving of humanity and your innate purpose to embrace your personal path of spiritual awakening. And doing so, you will support humanity through this profound transition to a new era, which I thought was beautiful. And there's so much in this. I really should do like a thing where I just read it. But, if you have this deck, really read this, because this one just means a lot to me personally, because my whole I want to say spiritual evolution has been trying to figure out where I fit in, and then trying to figure it out, and then eventually that led me to realizing that I don't want to figure it out. Like I've said before, I kind of like the whole quest part of it, and taking the meaning and understanding that different beliefs and cultures kind of have. And she also says in this book about how where they are in Africa, there is like a blending of cultures. There's like a huge array of belief systems that people don't even realize, and they kind of blend them in, even with Christianity and Islam, and those are kind of all blended into these different beliefs, old, new, and different traditions. And what they do is they find the truth in that, because that means so much to me. I don't know, that kind of hit me hard, because that's kind of how I feel. I feel like all any of this has ever been has been people trying to find a way to describe that, right? That feeling that we feel, that knowing of the unknown, right? That undefined thing that really connects us to nature and connects us to each other, which defines, the purpose of why we do the things we do, why we feel the things we feel, and what makes that so special. The drive for wholeness that we have really kind of brings us to spirituality. And I honestly feel like you don't have to define your way, but they're also, if you have found a way that works for you, people find their way to spirit, God, see, and there's a confirmation, great spirit in their own way. And I feel like that's why I like shamanism, because there's not a definedness from it, so, and I say that a lot lately, but it's just because like I've had a lot of personal revelations where I'm like, I really like this, since I was a little girl. I've always been obsessed with different cultures and belief systems, and I just found that fascinating, the why people think the way they do. And I've always kind of wanted to know the deeper meaning of things, and the deeper meaning of it is that deeper meaning, right? Is that quest for trying to figure things out and trying to understand the feelings that we feel, and that connectedness, and how it all goes together. And I just think it's beautiful. Anyway, so this big long rant. So I feel like, this is kind of talking about like the path, how you're kind of at a middle point where you're accepting the ups and the downs, and the undefined of all these things, which is where I love to be. And I just think that, like, collectively we're kind of at that space too. I think it's just beautiful. And then we also have Mystical Shaman Oracle number 19 with fire. And if you know me, I believe fire is that spirit, right? It's spirituality. If you look at ancient texts, that's kind of how they depict it. And because fire can consume, it can also create, and it's such a powerful force. It's a force of explosive energy. So the essence of this card says, fire consumes anything that it touches. The flames remind us of impermanent nature of reality and how situations can quickly transform into beauty or chaos. Fire is passion, and its dancing flame invites us to reach the sky. Warmth and light are heavenly, yet too much heat can scorch us. To fully step into the energy of fire is to be utterly transformed like the phoenix rising from the ashes. And there's an invitation, and it kind of talks about allowing fire to be a way to burn away hardships. But I don't really feel like that's what this is saying. I feel like with this reading, and I haven't even looked at the tarot yet, so we'll see how that goes. But I feel like it's definitely just talking about, there is like a big transformational space that we're in right now. And it's kind of asking us to kind of allow ourselves to use that alchemist nature, where we kind of can transform through that spirituality, right? What means something to you can allow you to transform those parts that, you know, don't feel right. You know, so I think we're kind of being asked to kind of notice these moments and notice the transformational nature of things burning away, or things that kind of seem chaotic but are also creative at the same time. And so we'll go to the tarot. And the first row I have is the King of Cups and the World. And this is the energy that we're in right now. So the world can be so many things. It's a lot of times it's also about completing a cycle or beginning a cycle. And we have the King of Cups. I feel like in this, it's saying that with the King of Cups being about a mature emotional person, somebody who is able to go down in the depths and back again, and really, like the phoenix rising, they can kind of feel that the emotions and get the understanding of it. There's a maturity of it, and they are able to give and feel responsibly and receptively. And I also feel like with the World, this is saying that too. I feel like we're at this point, there's like a part where we're able to kind of get that out of things in this world. The world is at this nature where we're kind of seeing everything out on the table. We have like this understanding of what is and what isn't. Not everybody does, but I feel like those of us that do, and I'm including myself in there. Does that sound very egotistical? I don't know. But it's like saying that, we're at this point where there's a matureness in this, you know what I mean? I feel like we're very young in this cycle where, we're all kind of opening up our eyes and opening our hearts, but I feel like this is really saying it's on a collective level, and this is something that is this part of the cycle. And then the World card also has like all the fixed signs traditionally, and that is somebody who has encompassed, those are supposed to be people who kind of are in that totality of that nature, right? They kind of have the wholeness of what that sign or that part of the season represents. And so I feel like that's kind of where we're at. We're really at this part where, we're able to, we've kind of, in a way, I don't want to say mastered, but we've kind of got the concept of where we are in this emotional and watery and spiritual nature. It's a jumping off point, I feel like. And then in the area that we need to work on, and we have the Seven of Cups. And the Seven of Cups obviously can be, confusion. And I always feel like since it's cups, a lot of times it's emotions, it can be spirituality, it's creativity. So there's something that, you have a lot of options too. I also feel like that's a lot of options. And with the Hermit, I feel like we're being asked to kind of go within, always being asked to go within, right? Because that's where we find the answers. And I feel like that's big on this right now. It's asking us to kind of sit with those confusing things because, you know, we have all this stuff going on. We're in the middle. We got all this stuff kind of going crazy, and we got all this good stuff coming in. And that's kind of where we are with the world right now. There's a lot of crazy things that if you let yourself get down into it and not come back out, you can really bring you down. But there's also so much good stuff happening. There's awareness happening. And I feel like that is telling us to, like, you know, really kind of use your inner wisdom, use your inner hermit to kind of, like, you know, tap into that knowledge and the spiritual teachings that you have deep down inside. And so I feel like we're being asked to kind of look at that. And it also can be options too. It can be, you know, we, like it said in that one card, it said that we have like so many things that could be, you know, chaos, but also opportunities coming at us. And I feel like that's so true right now. And then we have the Hermit again. So that's big. Maybe that means something to somebody. And also I want to mention real quick, I pulled 2 cards earlier and I didn't put them in, but I wonder if I should have. And they were angel oracles. And one was gold and the other one was amber. And the messages were pretty similar. It was saying that, like, give your worries to God. And it also said that miracles, God grants his miracles to those with sincere wishes or prayers. I can't remember what it said. But basically the concept I got out of that is, you know, have that faith that it's, you know, if you're sincere and you're really asking for a good reason and you feel it, it's going to happen. So really kind of give that faith into whatever you're looking for. And maybe that means something to somebody. Maybe there's somebody named Amber. I don't know. Which all these people in the world, I'm sure there is. So yeah, back to the third row, which is what we have around us and what we have as far as abilities or energy or situations, people or resources. And we have the Magician and we have the Hermit. I feel like this is saying we've done a lot of inner knowledge and inner seeking. And with the Magician, I feel like, you know, there are skills that we have acquired. There are resources and things around us that we can kind of combine and use, right? I feel like that's honestly saying that we have the tools to create and to kind of get this knowledge into power and this knowledge into action, right? Knowledge into action again, wisdom into action. With the last cards being the Lovers and the 6 of Pentacles. 2 6s is like a positive sign, I feel. And also the Lovers, you know, that can be a connection. That can also be a connection with the inner parts of yourself. And I feel like since we have the King of Cups in the beginning, that's kind of what this is saying, especially with all these wisdom markers like the Hermit and the Magician. We have the ability to, you know, be whole. I feel like there's a wholeness in there. And a lot of times, you know, with the Lovers, that's kind of like the beginning of the whole under, you know, the duality thing. That's where we begin to understand that connection with other people and how that affects us and how the outside connects us, only to later find out with the devil that, you know, that's the death of duality, that really it all kind of starts and begin within. But this is understanding how the connection with others and the situations around us and the connection with nature and spirit and humanity, how all of that kind of affects our life and how it's so needed. And I feel like with the 6 of Pentacles, this is also saying there's an even give and take, and we're understanding that this is such a huge part of how things work in shamanism. And I said this before, but I can't help it. It's just true. So shamanism, like, you know, the community relied on the community. If the community didn't act like a community, it didn't work, right? They were hunter-gatherers. No matter where you were in the world, if there wasn't a unison in making sure everybody was cared for and caring for each other while, you know, doing the work to do that, it really did kind of make that work. So I feel like we kind of need to understand that, like, on a soul level, that's where we kind of need to be. And I feel like there's balance. There's definitely a balance within, especially with the Lovers right there. So I feel like this is saying, you know, we're at a time collectively and personally where we really are beginning to understand that whole balance of opposites, right? The yin and the yang, the male, the masculine, feminine, the spiritual and the earth, you know, all that stuff. It's balanced within the inner, the outer, right? as above, so below, the unconscious and the conscious, the 3D, all that stuff. We're at this point where we're understanding that it affects all of us. And the inner means that inner part of you. If we are not whole people, we cannot have a whole society. So I think just like if you want to put this into as a public health part, mental health, really kind of putting that effort into taking care of your fellow neighbors' mental health, but you can't do that if you don't take care of yourself as well. That whole concept of you can't, if you don't fill your own cup, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And so then we go all the way to the Herbal Astrology Oracle, and we have number 44, which is a number that I like, and it's Valerian, which is acceptance, and the ruler is Neptune. So Neptune is that, watery, mystical part of ourselves. That I think we all kind of like, that's what starts this whole thing. That's what starts the whole trying to understand something. And then through, the ages, like having lack in things has caused us to really understand and like really make things that, don't need to be a thing, through scarcity. People have created, I need to harm you because I, don't have something. I honestly 1,000,000% believe that if you're a whole person, you don't have those feelings towards people. There is, I kind of have issues where, I see somebody harming somebody else. I do kind of have to remind myself that the person is going through something, but I don't have to like it, right? Anyway, back to Valerian. So the keywords are order, loosening, acceptance, embracing imperfection, and persistence and flow. So there it is again, flow, right? And I feel like that's what we're really being asked to do, because there's going to be ins and outs and ups and downs and all kinds of things that kind of make us crazy, right? And then I'll read the ending guidance. It says, Valerian supports us by widening our trigger points and helping us zoom out of a situation that might be overloading you with anxiety or stress. It's an adaptogen, right? So we need to be like adaptable and fluid. Remember to go easy on yourself and don't push yourself too hard to meet goals. So I honestly feel that that is such a big part of this. We're at a level where I think we struggle because, some of us kind of understand like the essence of what things are and how it could work if we all kind of like, do our part and, work on our soul self and really the things that make us feel whole, right? And if we allow others to do that by, just doing the right thing, but sometimes it's hard. And sometimes things happen because that's just the nature of things, right? And a lot of times the way we react to things, our ups and our downs, it really kind of represents what our triggers are. So again, but those are the things that, we know we need to change, and we can just use that internal fire to alchemize that, be that magician, and turn that into something beautiful. I hope that meant something for somebody today. I have no idea. And again, anytime like I do this, like if you see the cards and you feel something different, then maybe that's the message that was meant for you. I'm just seeing how it means to me. And a lot of times, I'm coloring this message with my inner understanding of things. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean the same thing to you. I appreciate you guys, and thank you so much.